Hello everybody and welcome to section 3. We're going to cover geologic age. So you might remember from the first section of this unit, this is our geologic timescale. Our oldest at the bottom and our youngest at the top, just like we would see with rocks. This is our total story of the Earth, starting here at 4.56 billion years ago. And there's a lot of different ways that we can break this down because it's such a massive amount of time. We're going to talk about some of the different ways that we do this. We have our eons here. You might think of these like being completely different books in the series. Book 1, 2, 3, and 4 here. I break these down into smaller units called eras. This big one here, and then this one, and then this one. You might see the book is broken down into part 1, and then part 2, and then part 3. Then even smaller than this, we would have our periods, which you might think of as being individual chapters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then finally, even smaller than that, are the epochs, which are almost like individual scenes within each chapter. So these eons. We have the Haitian Eon first. This is the period of Earth's history where we have no surviving material. Nothing which is a physical material from the Haitian has survived till now. That's how we define this. Whatever it is that went on there, we have to figure it out through some other way. But there's no rocks, there's no material which survives. We have the Archean coming next, which is mostly single-celled organisms. We have only fossil records of these, but we see very, very simple shapes, single cells, single little spheres. We have the Proterozoic next, where we see shapes which are more than single cells, maybe a cluster of cells put together, maybe something like our stromatolites, but still relatively simple things. And finally, the Phanerozoic, where after 541, with our Cambrian explosion, we have this adaptive radiation, or really, really fast evolution of animal and plant life, everything exploding into the visible realm all at once, that is a million times more complicated than anything that had come before it. We can also talk within the Phanerozoic, which is where we spend most of our time. Whether as a geologist or just in general, these are the things which are closer to the surface, so easier for us to look at. This is the stuff that is younger, so it tends to be better preserved. And it's also the stuff which has fossils in it. And we can use those fossils to tremendous effect as far as being able to figure out what had happened. This is where the fossils are. Fossils as in visible life. You can go out and see a rock from here and be able to tell sometimes with the naked eye that there are these organisms in it. And we talk about the Phanerozoic in terms of these three big units. We talk about Paleozoic, ancient life, or Mesozoic. Meso is in the middle, and then our Cenozoic, all the recent life. The Paleozoic is mostly dominated by ocean life, Mesozoic by reptiles, and the Cenozoic by mammals. And the most profound changes in the fossil record are those that occur between these. You imagine somebody was figuring all of this out. Initially, they didn't have anything to go off of. Instead, what they were doing is dividing the book into sections based on where they saw these huge mass extinction events. That is how they divided it into this part 1, 2, and 3. They said, okay, this is more than just a chapter break here. This is a break in everything that was going on the planet. Something huge happened at the boundary between these and these. Now, we divide these eras into shorter units called periods. These are what we're going to be talking about most of the time. We're going to talk about what had happened in the Jurassic, or in the Cambrian, or in the Triassic, in the Permian. For the most part, we're going to be talking about individual chapters in this book whenever we talk about how old a rock is. This is just small enough to be specific, we know exactly which chapter, but we don't have to spend a lot of time talking about exactly which page and which line in the book we're looking at. Next unit is going to be on absolute age.